Why, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a brand new series, Stories from the Legends, the studio memoirs. I think it's only fitting that we start with my old band, It Bites. I think that's where it all started for me. It Bites, you know, before we even got to the studio, we had a whole history. We had like a 5 or 6 year history before we even got to the studio or even to the music industry. And we were playing cover bands, you know, we were doing like cover numbers. We had, you know, Yesterday Once More by the Carpenters, all the old songs you hear me play, I do them. Then we kind of got into our jazz funk thing. We were doing like Level 42 covers, and we were doing like, you know, Shack Attack, and like, you know, like we did that. We went through like a kind of I don't even know what they call that type of music. Is it like, it's instrumental anyway, but it was like jazz, you know, jazz rock, I guess. I don't know. But it was, you know, and we were doing cover numbers up and down the, you know, up and down the north of England. There's a club circuit there where you play, you know, anybody who's been on it, it's, you know, it's a particular thing, you know, it's actually quite funny, but it's a whole scene. I loved that. I was like, you know, I was all into that thing. You know, I just think it's, I miss those days actually, because there was a lightness about it. It wasn't like so serious, and you didn't have to, you know, you could just go out and play, you know, Yellow River, Yellow, you know, you could do all that. But so we had a history, but then I don't know what happened. I think John moved down to Manchester, I think, to be in like a jazz fusion band or something. I can't remember, but he got out of there. And then I remember, I don't even know what made me do it, but I got on the motorway and I hitchhiked down to London. And I was picked up, believe it or not, I was picked up by the Pogues. And they were on tour with Elvis Costello at the time. I think this is the right time. I'm trying to think. Like I remember, I don't know if this was my first time down there or not. I don't know what it was. I think it might have been. But I was hitchhiking to London. I thought, I'm going to go do it. I had 10 quid in my pocket. I just had 10. I mean, how brave is that? I had 10 quid in my pocket. I get on the motorway, I hitchhike down, I go down there, and I go to Lancaster University, and I'm with the Pogues, with Shane and all them guys, and Bison and all them, Spider. Of course, we were drinking like crazy. Them guys were, wow, they were wild with the drink. And old Shane was born on the same day. He was a Capricorn. He was born on Christmas Day, same as me. And they were nice, you know, they were nice guys, they were real nice guys. And I think it was Kate. I had to watch out for her. I think she had a bit of a crush on me or something, so I tried to stay out of her way because I think Elvis was a bit pissed off or something. I can't remember. But we're hanging out with that whole crew anyway, with like Elvis and, you know, you got the Pogues and like this whole thing. And they dropped me off at Euston Station. I think they lived in Camden or Kilburn at the time, I can't remember. And they dropped me off at Euston Station. I slept in there for a few nights. I'd gone down because previous to that, I'd met this band, played Forest, they were called Forest. It was this R&B band who played at the White House in Cumbria, in Whitehaven. And I'd got the phone number. I was probably drunk or something. I was like, give me your phone number. And I got the phone number off the sax player, Keith Thomas. And Keith was a nice guy. And that, you know, that was like a year before. But then I remembered I had this guy's phone number. So I called him up and we met up. And we started, you know, I started playing guitar and he was playing sax and all that stuff. Just like a few rehearsals. I think we did a pub gig and we got paid off because we were that bad, because we didn't know what we were doing. And but that was the beginning of my settlement into London, because he taught me about squats. And we got this squat, and well, I got this squat. I was by myself at the time, and he said, if you kick the door down, you put your own lock on, and then you give your own lock to the anybody else who's living in that apartment complex. You can just move in. And so I kicked the door down, I put my key on, I give the main door key to the person who lived upstairs. And that was it. And it was a brand new council flat. It was 46 Nutcroft Road in Peckham. Just off the it was just off the Old Kent Road. Commercial Way, I think it was called. But Thicket Road, not Thicket Road, it was called Nutcroft Road. Thicket Road was Pens, that's for later. But Nutcroft Road, 46A Nutcroft Road, I remember that. I was on the basement flat. And so I moved in and I was doing all right. And then, you know, I was playing with Keith. I was doing the stuff with Keith, and I was trying to get set up. I got my dole sorted out. I was on the dole. I had absolutely no money. And then I think I'd gone up to back up to Cumbria. I went to see the guys up in Cumbria. And I said, why don't you come down? Let's get it bites back together. Let's start again and do it again. So Bob and Dick agreed to come down, and we went and picked John up in Manchester. I remember we picked all his gear up because I think the band at the time that John was in, I don't know whether they fell out. I don't know what had happened. I have no idea. But we ended up, they came down because another squat became available 2 doors away from me. I think it was 50B. And it was and what had happened was there was, they'd gone in there, they'd done the same thing, and so they were living like a few doors away from me. I had them all on Nutcroft Road. It was always like a miracle how that could happen. And so I was living on like one end of the thing, and they were living like just a few doors down. So we were just like, we were set, and we were absolutely starving. We had no money, we had no nothing. And this is what I mean by dedication, because every day we would sit and we would write songs. This is where all them songs like Hunting the Whale, Meet You in the Spring, Turn Me Loose, like all these, they were done on a little cassette player. John had a cool ghetto blaster. We used to record them on that. And John also had this little drum box thing. When Bob couldn't play the drums because it was too noisy, the neighbours used to go insane when we used to play the drums. So John would have like a little drum box, that silver Roland one. It was in a 909, I'm not sure, 606. Can't remember. But we had all our demos done on that. And we would just write songs. We were trying to get a record deal. That's what we went down there for. We wanted to have a record deal. But we'd send these tapes off, we'd do these demos, and then we got a message from Paul Morley. I don't know if you remember him. Paul Morley, he was the only guy who sent us a letter back. We'd sit there like, we got turned down by every record company on the planet, but Paul Morley said, you'll never get a record deal with demos done on a cassette. It doesn't matter how good your songs are, you just won't. So you got to spend some serious money, because that was the thing. You had to spend some serious money on your demos. In order to get a record deal and all that. So we couldn't spend money on demos. We were skint. Absolutely skint. We used to steal milk off doorsteps. I remember being outside of the pub, because we all smoked at the time, before our dole came through, maybe on the Thursday. Maybe you got the dole on the Friday. On the Thursday night, we were like round the pubs, emptying ashtrays out to make cigarettes out of the ends of cigarettes. People still. And we used to buy this like space food. It was like a soy mix or something like that. It was soy, right? But you could make like mince out of it if you poured like like a stock cube on it. So you could make spaghetti ball and all that stuff out of it. But it was about 3p for about a bag about the size of a sheep. So we'd buy this and we'd make this like vegetarian, but we were like literally like we were skinny as rakes, man, like beyond it. Like we were so skinny. And we had no money, we had nothing. All we had was a bunch of hope. And that's the thing with the Bites guys. You can't take that away from us. Like we went through that together. So it doesn't matter what what happens in the future. We did do that together. We really did. Like that whole It Bites experience, we went through that together. I feel a real kinship with all of them. I'm not sure if they're too keen on me. Well, actually, Bob and Dick, I spoke to recently. Bob and Dick, I'm going to get together with them guys in June to hang out with them. Nobody's seen John. Not even Bob and Dick have seen John, so we don't know where he's at. John's doing his Aquarian Moon thing. John's off to the left somewhere, I think, old John. But anyway, but we did go through that together, and it's like when you do something like that with somebody, we were prepared to starve almost, and we didn't even realise it. It wasn't we were there going, we're prepared to starve. We just did. We had no money, we had no food, all we had was each other and a bit of hope that one day maybe somebody could understand why Hunting the Whale was a decent track. Because in the time we were in, like, you don't understand, that time we were in was like, it was about goths and, and punk and, all this like non-musical stuff. Just to kind of, it was, because the music industry, let's be honest, it isn't really about music. I know there's been some good music come out of it, but it's really like, you've got to look good. We didn't really know about all that. Well, I didn't anyway. And so that was the beginning of It Bites down in the squats in Peckham. And we'd go, you know, maybe one of us would get our dole and we'd just, you know, we'd go and buy, we'd get a shop in. It was amazing. We'd get a shop in. We had like proper mints, you know, for spaghetti ball. You know, some toast. We got bread. We were going to have some toast. Beans on toast, you know, we'd do all that thing like that. And but we literally were starving. And we were, you know, we were four young lads down there, took a massive risk, living in squats, prepared to sacrifice it all just for the chance of being, you know, having the chance to get on the big stage, which later on I'll tell you on another video like how that went. But that was the beginning of It Bites that you know. It was out in the working men's clubs, and then we kind of split for a bit, like a little while, a year or two, and then we got together. It was the coming together at the beginning of the you know, the squat time, the Peckham years. Like, they were the ones that really shaped It Bites, because that's when we first started doing our own stuff. You know, we were writing our own stuff at that point, which, you know, we loved it all. We loved all that. And I'll share another story with you the next time we come to the video. Hope you've enjoyed that one. Please press subscribe. Please do that. That would be a great thing. If you could press subscribe, that would make my day, and it would go a long way for an old muso here. All right, and I'll see you on the next episode. It's going to be interesting. There's some very, very good stories on this you know, on this series. So keep watching. I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.